Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of
Not Fighting.
And I'm Tyler Bishop, and that makes her
Jena Bishop.
And I promise we won't coordinate weird intros or anything like that in the future. That wasn't coordinated, but it felt weird.
I don't know. It's whatever.
We've tried to eliminate things that suck from the show, like stuff that doesn't make sense, like weird intros and outros.
You over explaining what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can't tell. So, in the last episode, we talked a little bit about the people that the people that you'll see at a tournament, and we focused on the people on the mats and some of the people that are the worst.
More competitors. Yeah.
The competitors, obviously. And one of the things I've seen from the first two episodes we've released already is people are like, oh no, I'm that person, because in some cases we've talked about people wearing certain gis or doing certain things as training partners, and I think it's fair to preface it with we're all sort of these people at different times, to different degrees, I guess. Yeah,
this one maybe not, but in the past too, and it's even if you're that person, maybe it's not a bad thing, or maybe it's a wake-up call. Be better.
I mean, I think that's part of it too, is you kind of start out maybe as one of those people, and then over time you're like, oh wait, my first couple jiu-jitsu classes, I wore my pants backwards. I didn't know how to tie them.
I forgot about that. Also, I think that you were probably one of the I said probably too many times, but you were one of those people when you first started, the kind of the douchiest of them all, in a lot of ways. And and then a year into your jiu-jitsu journey, I started training and kind of forced you to not be a douche.
Fair enough. I think that's fair. It's funny. I originally started because I wanted to do MMA, which I eventually started doing, but I actually didn't do MMA initially because I was afraid that people would think I was a douchebag for starting jiu-jitsu to do MMA. So I just trained jiu-jitsu for 6 months, which actually ended up being that's what I recommend. If you're gonna do MMA, just train jiu-jitsu for a little while first, so at least you don't suck at something.
Yeah, I mean, you should probably do something aside from, I don't know. I think it's different though. If you go to MMA school, they kind of have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's definitely times are different now than they were over a decade ago. Jeez. But
also when you in rural Missouri too, there's not a lot of, or not rural Missouri, we weren't there, but just in Missouri, there's not as many options.
When I did my very first MMA fight, when they were giving me my opponent, they were like, "Do you want to fight this guy?" And they were telling me, they were like, he says jiu-jitsu doesn't work on him, and I was like, oh great, that means he's never
please let me do this guy, let me fight this one.
Never trained jiu-jitsu then, because if you train jiu-jitsu for a day, you're like, oh no, it works on everybody.
Yes.
So we want to split this episode kind of in two, and we want to talk about basically the people off the mat. So people that you'll see at a jiu-jitsu competition that basically are not competitors, and I feel like the first place that we're going to start could almost have its own episode.
Yeah, I mean, parents. Let's just talk about parents. So, as a kids instructor and somebody who has done refed a lot of kids.
Done refed a lot of matches.
I didn't mean it like that. No, I changed what I was going to say mid. I'm not that country. That's you.
That's
okay?
True.
Okay, but no, as somebody who has repped a lot of kids matches, man, the parents can be bad, and I think this goes for all sports, but we're just going to talk about how things that we've experienced and seen with parents. There are always parents at a competition yelling and screaming and trying to coach their kids, but they've never trained a day in their life. And they do not understand jiu-jitsu. They don't know the rules. They don't know anything about it. They probably don't even stay and watch their kids train. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt if you're a parent that watches. So, you're hearing my instruction or whatever while I'm teaching your kids. But then, these parents, like, they're not staying and watching their kid unless they might be the parent that stays and watches their kid and then records every sparring match they have at the academy, and then has to like yell at them or like post it like on, you know, I've had to like tell parents to stop recording their kids because they would post stuff. It's like, this is training, and like you're trying to like post like your kid in training, like arm-wrangling this other kid.
My kid is pretty much the Michael Phelps of jiu-jitsu, so
yes. The parents, like, they love to like live through, you know, their children, like everything that they didn't accomplish, they're trying to get their child to accomplish, so they're just super hard on their kids.
And you and I were talking about this before when we were talking about this topic and parents, and we were basically just saying like, you know, the kind of stage mom or soccer mom you know, like trophy dad, like those types of like stereotypes, they exist in all sports. But one of the things that I think makes jiu-jitsu slightly unique and like this a little bit different is in all those other sports, like everybody, at least in like, let's just take an American perspective, like, you know, a mom might not know anything about football from the standpoint she's never played football, but she watches football. It's fairly intuitive to figure out like he's faster than the other kids, like he's doing good. Jiu-jitsu in so many different ways, like what you look at is counterintuitive to the way that it is. Yeah. And I think that that's where parents really struggle when they like want to like coach their kids, or like they want the coaches to get out of the way so they can like tell them how it is.
The one of the funniest things that you like, I think it was a parent you saw, there was something about like the parent like telling him to get off. Yeah, go ahead.
Get off of defense and get on offense.
Just like your kid's mounted, and like that's the parent just screaming at him just to get off a defense and get on offense. It's like you need to be able to like give them better advice than that. Like your kid's losing.
And
like,
the thing, so I was refereeing a match when that happened. I was refereeing a kid that was like crying and upset, and the kid was clearly outmatched. The other kid was way more skilled, and it was obvious. And this was rural Missouri, and like you could tell that the kid that was getting beat, his dad was berating him, screaming at him, and you could tell, number one, the kid was probably not training at a place where they were getting good instruction. And let's pretend just for a second they were, it wouldn't have mattered because the kid just wasn't very athletic, wasn't like all that competitive. Like they probably shouldn't have even been competing that day. And the dad is like screaming at him, and he's screaming at him to get off on defense and get on offense, as if that's helpful at all. And
like, how does that help you? You know, we've all had that like scenario when you're getting coached, and it's just like you're just in a bad way, like you're losing, like there's not a lot you can do, you know, and your coach is yelling at you to do something, and you're like, yeah, like I'd love to be able to do that right now, but they're not gonna let me. That's like the scenario's not gonna allow it. Like, and for me, I remember that happening in one time, and I like was like looking over at my coach, like, what should I do? And they were just like, man, I'm sorry. Like that was like kind of the look, and I was like, yeah, okay. I'm like glad that was your response too, because I felt like there was nothing I could do, you know, in that scenario. But
I mean, that's kind of the
that's
thing.
Good coaching, you know. Somebody's just like, yeah, they're doing a good job. Like you don't have much option here.
As a coach, like oftentimes that's when I'm the most silent, you know, is whenever you have somebody and they're in a bad way, they're in a bad spot. You know, like you'll give them advice on how to protect themselves, but they know they're in a bad spot. You know they're in a bad spot, and at this point, like you're just kind of like you've trained, like you know what to do, like you need to protect yourself, and also, you know that. Also, it's like you don't want to say too much because you don't want like their competitor to like do exactly
like
what you tell them not to do.
Yeah, like do all the things that they're trying to. It's like
they're clearly not in control at that point.
There's not a lot you can do at that point.
And that's what's frustrating to me sometimes about parents is because they'll be really hard on their kids, and I think it's one thing if you're really excited about your kid, and then if they lose, you're like, good job. Yeah. You know, like you tried your best, whatever. But it's another thing whenever you're like clearly disappointed, and you know that you know the reason you've heard that story that I talked about the offense defense is because that particular dad I went up to afterwards, and I actually had to tell him like, hey, if I mount you, like, have you ever trained jiu-jitsu before? And he's like, well, no. And then it's like, well, if I mount you, you're not going to be able to get out. You're not going to be able to get off of defense and not onto offense, because I'm going to keep you mounted. I'm probably going to submit you because you're going to not have the skills to be able to defend against that. And that's what's frustrating to me sometimes about parents that are hard on their kids. It's like, you have no idea how difficult it is to get somebody that's better than you off a mount or the back or something like that.
Yeah, or you just mess up that much. But yeah, and then parents they just shout out the craziest things in our friends. We always talk about this one scenario. It was, I don't even think we weren't even there. It was at a tournament and they were reffing and working this, and like they were like, the parent was like, hit him with the bulldozer. It's like, what? Get him with the, what are you talking about? Like, that's not a thing. Like, I don't know. They just like shout stuff out that makes no sense. It's like, it's not helpful. You're only like making your kids more emotional. It's just like, you need to be just, if you're a parent, like, unless you're a black belt coaching your child, like, you should probably just keep your mouth closed. Like, sit far away. Like, I know, like, my mom hasn't really, like, she doesn't really come to my jiu-jitsu stuff, hasn't had opportunity, but I've watched her at my sister's basketball games, and like, sometimes I'm like, woman, like, you're gonna get kicked out of this game, okay? Like, she like passed off my niece, like, was holding a baby, passed off the baby to go yell at the referees,
walk down,
the coaches, and
walk
stuff.
Down to get closer
like,
to the
walk
referee.
down, and I'm like, woman, like, you're not making it better for your child. You're only embarrassing them and everyone else that you love. So just, keep it calm. The best thing you can do for your kid is to be this calm, like neutral thing. If you start getting worked up, I've seen this with kids, like, that even that they're doing a good job or whatever, and then they see their parents like being nervous or anxious, or like their parents getting worked up about something, it only like makes them like rise to that level. If you can stay calm, I know it's hard, but if you can at least stay, like, pretend to be calm, it will help your kid and they'll compete better.
Shout out to Pam French. Anyways.
I love you, Mom. I really do.
So moving on from parents, I mean, I feel like we could keep going on about all the different types of weird things.
There's so much with parents. We have a lot, but yes.
But they're not the only ones giving terrible advice. There's a classic, what I would describe as like the terrible advice guy.
Yes.
And it's usually a blue belt.
Probably a blue belt that you train with, just a friend, whatever. And they're always going to be on the sideline trying to shout louder than your coaches. And
it doesn't matter who your coach is. Your coach could be a Gracie. It could be a famous competitor. It could be a famous coach. It could be anyone on the planet. It could be, you could have a row of black
Mendes there, like, coaching you, and this guy is gonna shout over them, like, thinking that they know better.
Do the armbar from class Wednesday.
Yes, that's like a really good example.
They're just like shouting stuff that like only makes sense to them, or
shouting stuff that's like they saw on YouTube. It's not like, it's not even from class. It's not relevant. It's like they watched this thing happen on YouTube, and now they're gonna like
dune buggy.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's like, what? He doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, it's like, just be quiet. If people are getting coached by like their coaches, just be quiet. Don't yell louder. Or unless you're just cheering for them. Or different. That's one thing that I will do.
I'll give you a pass if you want to yell the same thing. Black belt's like, grab his right sleeve, and they're like, grab his right sleeve.
Yeah, that's just to make sure like everybody, they're hearing it. Okay, I get that. But if you're just telling them to do something that's different than that, like, come on, man. Like, who are you? Why?
If the black belt's like, protect his head, and you're like, get him in the lockdown. You're like, man, this guy just needs to shut up. And
there's like, because like this bothers me for real, because there was a scenario where one of our friends was, and it was an MMA, it wasn't even jiu-jitsu, but like they changed their strategy that was working for them because some douchebag from the sideline that wasn't their coach yelled something else, and then like when they listened and they did what that guy said, and then they wound up losing the match, or losing the fight, because like they were listening to the wrong person. And it's like, sometimes when you're fighting, it's like hard to like discern like who's your coach and who's not. And so it's like, if you're just hearing stuff and you might listen to the wrong person, it can really change the outcome. So it's like, do you want that responsibility? Do you want to be like like the reason that somebody hates you forever because you lost them that match, I will.
Bitter much?
A little bit bitter.
No, but I will say this from coaching lots of people over time and being, I would say, both a really good coach and a really bad coach in different like instances, sometimes really really close together for both MMA and jiu-jitsu. I would say like one of the things I'm more cognizant now of than ever is being really particular about what I do say.
Yeah.
Because if you have somebody that's really coachable, like everything you say might be important. So let's make sure that the stuff that you do say has something meaningful.
Has value, yeah. Like, most of the time it's like if I don't really, like if, I feel like too, it's like when I'm really, really silent when people are like really, really in control or really, really out of control. Like it's the in between. Like it's a close match and like you're gonna talk through like the things, but it's like this person's just smashing the person. I don't need to say anything. I feel like it's just rude. Like to the other person, it's disrespectful. Just let that person keep going. Yeah. But if my competitor is just like losing really bad, they're getting smashed, and just like, yeah, I'm not gonna keep yelling at you and make you feel bad. Like you need to keep doing.
If they're
stuff.
listening and like you're helping them protect themselves from getting submitted, that's great. But whenever you start saying something to somebody and they're it's clearly that the coaching is not taking with them. Like you're like, get on your right side, and they get on their left side. You're like, all right, I'm just gonna like let them figure this out. This is a time to learn. Yeah. And speaking of time to learn, there is a certain other type of person at a tournament, and whenever they discover something for the first time, I would describe them as the
acai guy.
Yeah.
Person's never been to a tournament that had like acai, and then it's like maybe they spent an entire paycheck at the acai booth for that weekend, and they have like you can't catch them without acai. I mean, shout out to our friend Sean Woods. I think he might have set a record for acai consumed in a weekend.
Like 15 or something. If he didn't have acai in his hand, he was in the bathroom. It's got
a lot more fiber than you think, guys.
They're delicious. Acai bowls, I eat them all the time.
They are delicious.
You can tell when somebody discovers them for the very first time. It's they've got like 9 of them, and they're usually posting on social media. They're like, acai, the only reason I come, whatever. Like,
they got the t-shirt, they got everything.
Yep.
They're that guy.
They're that guy. Or girl.
Oh yeah. This is when we say guy, we mean all genders.
And this next one, I would say can be a guy or a girl, but I'm going to be sort of sexist here and say it's almost always a female in this situation.
Yeah, it's like when it's the significant others. It's the girlfriends, the wives, the family members maybe, or that are there because they want to support you. Like they love you, they're excited that you're competing, but they have no interest in jiu-jitsu. They have no interest in being there, and they're sitting there bored out of their minds. Because let's face it, watching jiu-jitsu can be really, really boring.
I don't want to do it.
And I train and I love jiu-jitsu, but then it's also like if you don't even know what's going on, like why? Like you're just like, I don't know, like this sucks, and you just sit there waiting all day. Like
I've commentated some of the greatest matches of all time, and I've been so bored.
Oh yeah,
so bored.
Oh yeah,
because even good matches are boring for a certain period of time.
Well, especially if it's 10-minute match. Like man, like you sit there and you don't like. It's not 10 minutes of excitement. It's 10 minutes of like mostly boredom and like 30 seconds of excitement.
I hope Buchecha starts fighting him soon.
Yes,
so yeah, true. Usually those folks, they're usually
and you know
on their
what?
phones.
For this, thank you guys. You guys are amazing people, and we all love you. And thanks for your support. That's what I have to say.
We understand.
And shout out to one of the most patient people. I'm with the shout outs today. That's usually you. But like that I think this is like that has the best attitude and has been like the most positive person and has had to endure this to the worst degree is Michelle Schrock, because I remember she was there. She was there for Nick Moose Schrock and
Abu Dhabi.
And we were all friends. We were in Abu Dhabi, and that day, we weren't even fighting. Nick was done, and it was you and I fighting that day. And we were supposed to start. Your division was supposed to start at 11, and then mine was at like 1. It's weird that I remember those times, but we showed up an hour early so that Tyler would have prep time or whatever, and then they were running over an hour behind, and then they also the time of his his division was supposed to go, they just decided to take an hour off for like a prayer break or something. And we didn't have like any way of communicating that. And then our friend, because we were friends, like she was there in the stadium waiting for, I didn't get done fighting until like 7 p.m. No.
Yeah, it was
like
late.
7?
I was gonna say like 7
yeah, like
PM,
7
'cause
o'clock. Because I was
like 3 or
literally
4.
the last person on the mat because like they were running. It was just bad, and it's like we couldn't tell them like, yeah, I'm getting ready to go. Not so they're waiting for us. Like they might be going now. Like we didn't know, and like we couldn't even communicate. And she's there, and then like afterward, I'm like, I'm so sorry that you had to. And she's like, no, like it was great, and she was so positive. And I was just
Let this just be a PSA in general that the jiu-jitsu tournament is really important to you. The people that you like want to invite there to like watch you compete, realize it's not important to them. And in all actuality, that was the advice you always give people. I think is superb about just telling people about, oh, I'm competing.
Oh, I'd rather not tell people I'm competing. Just take the pressure off of me, and just the less people there watching me, the better. You know, I'd like my teammates, my coaches to be there. And outside of that, like, I don't need everybody to know that I'm doing this. Like, I don't need that added stress, that added pressure.
I've heard so many people tell me like, oh, man, I'm just sorry that I let everybody down. It's like, let who down? You didn't let me down.
No,
like,
you're not
really good. And they're like, just my whole family was here watching. It's like, why'd you invite them? Why'd you bring your family? That seems like it made it harder for you.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
Yeah. If you stress
this
out.
This is your first tournament. You were terrible. You needed to get off defense and get on to offense. I was screaming it the whole time.
Yeah, those are terrible people. But
and so on the opposite side, you basically have the significant other that's like hysterical.
It's true. It's true. We've seen them. We've all heard them yelling, crying, like all the things. I don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on, but they're just screaming the whole time.
We got a dog over here that's farting like crazy.
It's so bad. That's all I can think about too.
Man, I thought you were gonna say something. Man, did he fart?
I'm gonna let him outside right now.
He needs to go outside. But speaking of spouses, there is one person that you would think would be a spouse or a loved one, and they are in a way almost like an adopted one, and that is what I would describe as the team mom.
Yeah.
It's usually another man.
Yeah, just somebody there, and they're taking care of everybody. They have snacks. They have everything coordinated. They probably made a printout for like when everybody on the team is like, they're handing it out. Like, guys, let's go. They're on this mat right now. And it's like, you know,
Mat
they're
3 running 41 minutes early.
just on the schedule, like everything.
They've got like a utility belt with like Pedialyte and bananas in it. Honey Bear.
They're carrying around foam rollers or not, the hypervolts and
it's like
all
a foam
that
roller,
stuff.
but it's like a disc, and they're like, and it's like a foam roller, and it's just out, and they can roll out.
Just prepared for everything for everyone. And you know what? Like, I appreciate that. Like, as a coach, like those people are really nice because like it's hard to keep up with your competitors and know who's competing and when. So, yeah.
And I would say that's one of the more helpful teammates, but there is another type of teammate, and they're not very helpful.
Yeah, that teammate that is like hysterical when you're competing, and they're yelling at the refs, and they're super mad because, oh, he got screwed. This should have been points. Like, what happened?
Why is it not 2 points?
Why is it not 2 points? And then like your coach is like, dude, it's not 2 points.
They're supposed to.
Like,
they're just shaking hands at the start.
Like,
they haven't even started yet.
That's nothing. Like, why? And it's like, they're like already irate, like that ref, that blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, I appreciate where your heart's at. Like, thank you. But like, just...
They're like, how's that not a takedown? They're like, he's mounted. Like, he's in really bad shape. There's no points for him.
It's not.
And in fact, we're just like really hopeful at this point that he's not embarrassed. But they're like always like overly motivated to like they're very quick on the draw in terms of like screaming that you should have got points or whatever, and they probably do more harm than good because
yes.
If you're as somebody that has been a referee, there's nothing more annoying whenever you're like trying to call a match and you have somebody that's like, how's that not 2? And it's like, it's not, because nothing's happened.
If anything, you're distracting the referees because like they want to explain to you how dumb you are, but they also need to pay attention to the match. So it's like, maybe they're thinking about like, man, that person is so stupid, and I really want to tell them off right now and tell them how dumb they are. But then they were like, oh, wait, what just happened? So they forget. and they didn't give your guy points when he needed it. But you didn't know that because you don't know the rules.
And the other thing is like this person will like they'll do that halfway through a match, and they'll be like, oh crap, Neil's going, and then they'll go like watch Neil.
I think our dogs are barking, playing too loud. They never play with each other, but they decide to right now.
It's perfect. And
of course.
And it's perfect timing, too, because we're about at the end of our show. And we were just talking about teammates that are overly vocal at the wrong time.
Now we have puppies that are overly vocal. Okay.
And now they're done. Because they're like, oh, they're done with the podcast? Cool. We're done being jerks.
It's just our puppy.
Yeah,
Toast is good.
She
is.
Wow. They're dogs. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining another episode of Not Fighting. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. We're going to start doing a thing where different topics that we have, if you follow Jena or I on social media, you can call a voicemail line that we've got set up.
Yeah.
We'll either put the number here or I'll look it up right now while Jena distracts you. I'm
not really distracting with anything, but yeah, if you guys want to add to like your opinion, or you're like, oh, you guys like forgot about this thing, like when you're talking about different things, you can call into this like voicemail, leave us a message. We'll play it on air if it's good, or just ignore it if it's not. Probably, so yeah, all those things. Just like do it. If you feel like doing it, do it. Like, or like just call in like death threats and stuff like that. No. Too. Like whatever's fun for you. It's 858-345-2624. So 858-345-2624. You can call in about anything, but we'll try to put different ideas and questions out there for everybody. And if you want to call in and leave us a message, we'll talk about it on the show. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us on another episode of Not Fighting.